Hey, we're live, pal.
Hey, we are live, and we are about 30 minutes away from some matinee MMA. UFC Vegas 39 kicking off at the top of the hour. Main event is Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez. Very big fight at 115 pounds. We got 9 fights on the slate, and we should be wrapped and packed just in time for everybody to go grab a bite to eat, do some things for the next hour or so, then you can go back same spot on the couch and watch a huge boxing match between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. So we have a very busy day ahead of us. I am Mike Heck. José Youngs is here. Alexander K. Lee is here. And you are here. And this is your show. It's the People's Pre-Fight Show. So whatever it is you want to talk about in regards to UFC Vegas 39, hell, if you want to throw in some Wilder Fury questions, go right ahead. This is all about what you guys want to talk about. So let's get right into this. Let's see what the peeps are saying, if the peeps are saying anything. If not, we will fill time by talking about the Red Sox.
I'm going to throw up no, we are not going to do that. I'm going to throw up a spicy poll asking about Wilder and Fury. There you go. How about
spicy
that?
Poll?
Let's give him some of those spicy poll to chew on. Oh, that sounded weird. I mean, a POLL to chew on. I'm so sorry. Please don't demonetize. I am so sorry.
Oh, my God. I haven't moved seating position since your stream yesterday. Excellent, Tech. Excellent. What's Casey doing? On vacation.
He's in Spain.
Well deserved. And guys, you got to check out Casey on Instagram. Oh, of course, follow him on Twitter. Amazing photos. Amazing vacation photos.
Yeah. You definitely want to, switch places with him. I got to get the Fury fight. That MMA Hour with Ariel interview sold me on it. Yeah, watch that interview with Tyson Fury.
That was one of the best interviews I've ever seen in any sort of combat sports.
Yep, I would agree. Good fight. I'm excited. Both guys are ready to go. Fury, I feel like, is going to be tough to beat, but Wilder looks fired up, looks ready. How do you think Dern would do against Rose if they were to fight soon? What do you think about that, Jose? I mean, listen, I understand your line of thinking. We got to wait till the first fight happens, and we got to wait for the second fight to happen, hypotheticals and all that stuff. But let's just have some fun with this one. Let's just say everything works out for this to be a thing. How do you think Dern would do against Rose right now?
Well, I would favor Rose Namajunas. I think she hits. How would I say this? She is sneakily very powerful. She hits really hard for a woman of her stature, because I think a lot of these strawweights either deplete their bodies to go to 125, or they're not big enough to go to 125, so they're kind of in that middle ground. Rose Namajunas is not the biggest strawweight in the world in terms of muscle and cutting weight and everything. I think honestly, if she took a year, she could probably get to 105. She's that skinny. She's not that tall. She's not that muscular. She's not that big, but she is such a high level martial artist and hits very hard. In terms of pound for pound, in terms of stature and muscle to power generated, Rose is way up there in terms of her head kicks and her punches and everything. I mean, she knocked Joanna dead. She's knocked Weili dead, and I think that's been the big knock on the women's strawweight division is there's not enough KOs. There's a lot of high level wrestlers, there's a lot of high level grapplers, there's a lot of high level submission artists, but there's not a lot of people that can just turn your lights out immediately, and Rose can do that. Now, if the fight gets to the canvas, obviously we all favor Mackenzie Dern against almost everyone at 115 pounds, but Rose is so good at jiu-jitsu as well. I mean, she's had a flying arm bar before she even got into the UFC, so I favor Rose. Obviously, in a straight jiu-jitsu match, Mackenzie Dern over pretty much everyone, but in a 5-round MMA fight, I favor Rose Namajunas, but I would love to see the fight.
What do you think, AK? This is kind of an Otno special that we will likely talk about at some point over the next few years. So if it happens right now, if Dern and Rose are on deck, how would you sort of look at that fight and view it?
The funny thing about the strawweight division is it doesn't have a Amanda Nunes. It doesn't have a Valentina Shevchenko. Even when I know everyone's gonna say, oh well, Joanna. Joanna. Yeah, she's had the best run at 115 so far. And I think she was obviously pretty heavily favored in most of her fights. But again, we've seen her lose now to Rose. We've seen her lose now to Zhang Weili. And that's not a criticism of Joanna. I think all three of those women are amazing fighters. But I don't view any of them as dominant a champion, again, as a Valentina Shevchenko or an Amanda Nunes. So while I would probably lean towards Rose as well, it actually really depends how tonight's fight goes. I think tonight is going to be such a huge indicator. I said it before on the previous A first or second round submission would be awesome, but would also make me kind of think that that Mackenzie Dern is really championship material, because Marina Rodriguez is so damn tough. It's almost like a pick'em fight in my mind. But at the same time, if she was able to go the distance and win a decision, that would really make me think maybe she can hang with the Rose Namajunas and the Zhang Weili's and the Joannas of the world. So tonight's going to be a big test. So this is a very good question, probably one we'll have a better answer of when we do the post-fight show. But even now, I will say I don't think there's a dominance champion at 115. Joanna is the best we've seen yet, but we haven't seen someone that's invincible. So Mackenzie Dern would have a chance. I mean, she has that A+ skill that no one else at 115 has, and she could easily pull off an upset. So I hope we see it someday.
Yeah, I think she has a chance. I think she has a good chance. Again, if this fight gets to the ground, like any fight Mackenzie Dern is involved in, could be over shortly thereafter. It doesn't matter who you are. She's just that good and that technical and that strong on the mat. So that specialty is a very dangerous thing against anybody right now. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. I would favor Rose, but if you're a gambling individual, depending on where the underdog tag lies on Mackenzie Dern, it would probably be worth a look, I would assume, especially if it's up there. So, but she's got to win this fight. In the battle of 24-year-olds, who has the most upside, Mazo or Agapova? AK, your thoughts on this? This is a good question.
Very, very good question. I picked Mazo to win today. I think she's a little further along in her developments. She's faced the better competition. So, Agapova's a wild card. I don't blame people for picking her either. She looked impressive before the Shayna Dobson. She looked good. She looked good in the Shayna Dobson fight. I mean, she looked good in the first round. She just has she needs to work on strategy, pacing herself, cardio, all that stuff. She punched herself out. She's a better fighter than Dobson. She's a better fighter than her. I think so. Anyway, if we're going skill for skill and physical gifts, she should have won that fight. But if you watch it, I mean, Dobson so tough. Last. And beat her, just straight up just beat her. So that's a mental thing, that's a maturity thing, and I think we'll need to see more of that from Agapova. So most upside, gosh, I've been so high in the Agapova train for so long. It's weird. I think Mazo will win today, but I do think Agapova, if she gets her head right and if she stays the course with the team she's working with, I think she does have the greater upside. So I'll go with, again, I'm picking Mazo tonight. I think Agapova could eventually go further.
Do you agree with that, Jose?
I've been pretty high on the Sabina Mazo train since her LFA days. She was the LFA champion, and LFA holds almost all of their events in the Southwest. So I've actually seen her fight in person a few times. She's very tall for the division. I just think she has a brighter future. When they fight now, I think it's a lot closer, but I think at some point when Agapova plateaus, Mazo will keep going, if that makes sense. Also, I don't know what the deal with all the stories about Agapova and ATT and all that stuff, because that was remember all that? That was very alarming when it came out. I don't know how true any of that is, but there was also a video of Agapova, going after, not, when I say go after, I'm not saying, physically, but, she was getting in a lot of people's faces at, a local grocery store or whatever, in, a parking lot, and it was just very alarming to see. This was, months and months and months ago, and so when I saw that, I was like, that was weird. Maybe she's just maybe there's more to the story we don't know, and then just kind of wrote it off. And then you hear all these stories about her at ATT, and I was like, oh, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire. But again, I have absolutely no idea what the situation is with her. But in terms of right now at UFC Vegas 39, I think the fight is a lot closer at this point in their careers at 24 years old. But I think in the future, I'm not saying Sabina Mazo is a future UFC champion, but I just think Sabina Mazo has a brighter future.
Yeah, I think skill-wise, it's probably Mazo. I think personality-wise, Mazo has violent tendencies. She says a lot of really interesting things to get you fired up for a fight, but I think Agapova probably has the brighter personality, probably the more marketable fighter of the two overall. I mean, some of the things that Jose alluded to, not great, but MMA fans forget things very quickly or don't know about things as long as it doesn't involve some of the biggest stars in the sport. So it's a good question. I think both are pretty similar. I think Mazo has the brighter future in terms of, can she be a top 15, a top 10? But they're both very young, so we'll see. The next few years are going to be very important.
Agapova also has that loss to Tracy Cortez on the Contender Series, if I remember correctly. So she's already stumbled a few times, and Sabina's lost to Marina, correct? Is that her only loss?
I think so. Yeah.
Marina Moroz.
Their only
Alexis
loss,
Davis.
Oh,
Oh,
Alexis
that's right.
Davis.
Ba-
Sorry.
yeah,
Bantamweight. Yeah. I don't
Alexis
know.
Davis is very, very good at fighting. She's been around.
Way more experience.
She's like
Way more
she is
experience.
one of the most experienced fighters in all of women's MMA. That is very much like a Macy Barber Roxanne Modafferi matchup.
Yeah.
Like
When she
Macy
started-
Barber
when she
might
started-
has a very bright future, but when they fought, that was not a
Unit, yeah.
good decision. And then Marina Moroz plays like her whole gimmick in the UFC is she just plays with the spoiler. Like didn't she beat JoJo, right? When it was
Yep,
like one of the
armbar.
originals. Like if JoJo had beaten Marina, she would have gotten the title shot against
Again.
Joanna.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Joanna's first defense. It just didn't work. So this Marina's whole role in the UFC, she just plays spoiled to all these fighters. So nothing to hang your head on that. So again, to answer your questions, again, Sabina.
Good.
guys-
I saw this one. Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys think Phil Hawes made the right call refusing the short notice replacement? I was really looking forward to seeing him back in the octagon. So, Jose, let me get your thoughts on this. Phil Hawes has we ran down this whole timeline yesterday on the preview show. Phil Hawes scheduled to fight Deron Winn. Deron Winn gets sick. He's out of the fight. They bring in Chris Curtis last minute, who's in Vegas, already getting ready for a fight. Bring him in, up a weight class. Phil Hawes has a decision to make. After a few hours of pondering, he's cutting weight, trying to get to 185. He says, you know what? No, I'm not going to fight this guy on 24 hours notice, a little over 24 hours notice. It just doesn't make sense for me, especially when I'm trying to get myself into the top 15 and get closer to a title shot. A win over Chris Curtis does nothing for me here. So what are your thoughts on this? Did he make the quote-unquote right call refusing this fight with Chris Curtis?
I don't know his whole reasonings behind it, but I'm not going to question a fist fighter turning down a last-minute fight against, as anyone that watched the preview show, like everyone was very high on Chris Curtis. Like he should have been in the UFC a long time ago. This is not a short notice fight against someone that you're probably just going to run over. Chris Curtis wasn't he getting ready for a fight? So it's not like he's just getting off the couch and going. Phil Hawes, in a similar vein, because I think Phil Hawes looks older than he is. He's only like 32, 31, 33, somewhere in that age. He looks closer to 40 than he really is. But it took Phil Hawes a long time to get into the UFC too. Like we thought he should have been a long time ago. How many shows did like Contender Series or Bellator or Brave shows did AK start talking about Phil Hawes? And
Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, and
Ultimate
then
Fighter.
exactly, and then he's finally in now. So he's like, I'm finally here. It took me forever to get in. I'm not gonna mess around and waste these opportunities. Like he was preparing to fight Deron Winn, a short, stocky wrestler, and yeah, Chris Curtis is moving up weight and this and all that. But like, I'm not gonna fault the man. Like that's silly. If he doesn't, because everyone's like, oh, he doesn't get paid. This and that. I'm like, that's his choice. What are you complaining about? If he doesn't get paid, how does that affect you? So no, I don't blame him whatsoever. If the fighter doesn't want to fight a last-minute fight, all power to him.
Yeah, okay, it's kind of hard without getting in Phil's head to make an assumption whether or not he made the right call, but I have no issue with this. Again, kind of like Jose said, it's his choice. He chose not to do it. He could have cut weight and taken the fight. He decided, you know what, not worth the time, not worth the work to cut all this weight and beat Chris Curtis. Like the hardcore fans know who Chris Curtis is. A lot of people have no idea who this man is. It's his UFC debut. He's got nothing to lose here going up a weight class. Not a lot of weight to cut to get to 185. Phil Hawes, obviously a much different story, much different cut, and he's just in a much different spot right now. So do you agree, or what are your thoughts overall on Phil Hawes saying, you know what, no thank you?
I was a little surprised he didn't at least weigh in to ensure some sort of show money. Perhaps his team is just hoping that they'll rebook him, soon. So don't even bother going through all that. And as we know, I think that as far, from fighters, the UFC can be kind of inconsistent as far as like, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. If you show up, if you do this, if you do that, will you get your show money? Will you get your show and win money? Will you get some other lesser compensation? It's across the board. They don't have a firm rule for it. You're kind of at the UFC's mercy when a fight gets like canceled under these sorts of circumstances. So I was a little surprised he didn't weigh in, but I also kind of understand that he might just be like, we'll probably get another fight in the next couple of weeks, go through this again, and it doesn't make a big change to our plans or or Phil's finances, whatever they may be. Yeah, I'm totally on his side. It would have been cool to see Chris Curtis fight. We all want to see it, but it's a very dangerous opponent. Phil Hawes gains very little other than getting paid to beat Chris Curtis, who is known to the hardcore, as you guys have mentioned, but for a lot of people, it's just this newcomer. and is very dangerous. I don't care. It's Chris Curtis. He's dangerous on 1 day's notice. He's dangerous on 2 hours notice. He's a very dangerous fighter. So even if Phil Hawes' team says, look, we're pretty confident we can beat this guy, they just gain so little from it other than getting another fight off their contract and getting another paycheck at the end of the day. So I really bristle against sort of the sentiment. I saw some fans, I should say some fans, but some commenters, saying like, he should be grateful that they found him an opponent on such short notice. And you know what? Again, good job by the UFC matchmakers for, getting Chris Curtis hooked up and getting him involved. But Phil Hawes doesn't have to be grateful for anyone. He signed. This is a mutual deal between him and Dern Win to sign it for this fight. That's what he signed up for. He's not beholden to follow through with any changes. They were all professionals here, right? This is a business. So if one end of the bargain falls through, Phil Hawes is not obligated to keep hanging on to his end of the bargain for no reason. So I understand people not liking it. If it hurts Phil Hawes' reputation, if it makes the matchmakers like throw him into a killer matchup next, trying to send him a message, I don't know if that's going to happen. And if it does, then Phil Hawes has to accept the consequences. Otherwise, I don't think we should think lesser of him or judge him at all for making a business decision.
More importantly, Mike, maybe this is a question for you.
Did Chris Curtis get paid for weighing in? I honestly don't know, but I would assume he did. Well, I mean, if he didn't, it'd be insane. But typically when you get on the scale and they read your weight and the weight is correct, you're getting paid. So I'll find out, but I'd be absolutely stunned if he didn't.
A lot of people questioning why we think Mackenzie Dern has a shot at a title shot, considering, quote, she hasn't beaten anyone. We've gotten a lot of questions about that, and I don't understand it.
Carla versus Mackenzie. Dern overrated. Carla hasn't gotten UFC behind her. Dern not a fan. Plus, not a great card to get excited about tonight. Still love UFC 5 weeks and counting. Let's go. Okay.
That's an emotional roller coaster there from Stargazer 84. Thank you, Stargazer 84.
Here's like another one.
It's so sad to hear you guys say this ridiculousness. Dern has beaten no one that has given her the hype you're putting on her.
Well, and I'm only picking these because people in the preview show have said we're only picking positive ones, and I want to address some of the negativity as well.
Guys, that's how hype works. Hype comes from the word hyperbole. Yes, you're right. It is an exaggeration of what we have seen from Mackenzie Dern. No, these comments aren't wrong. You're right. Why she is hyped. Yes, this is the definition of hype. She was hyped when she started her MMA career because of her competitive jiu-jitsu career. She was hyped when she came to the UFC because she was undefeated in MMA. And now she's hyped again because she's on a win streak. She's beaten some very respectable names in Nina Nunes, Virna Jandiroba, just to name her last two opponents.
Jandiroba is a great win.
Yeah,
that is a great win.
So to say she beat no one is such an insult to the last two women she's beaten among her other opponents. So, and I get it. And I think Mihail Spox here, who asked the question, is also engaging in some hyperbole with the comment. But I understand. But I'm saying yes, this is hype. We're not saying she's guaranteed anything. None of us are saying, oh, she'll win the title tomorrow or she's going to run through Marina Rodriguez. That's absurd. But if you don't understand why there's hype around her, I'm not sure you're understanding what she's accomplished so far and why people like her. I don't know. I don't know why you'd be so blown away that there's this much hype.
Mic drop. There you go.
Exactly. I mean, if you listen to the preview show yesterday, I said I feel like Marina Rodriguez is the better fighter. I feel like she's going to win the first 2 rounds, and then Mackenzie's going to submit her in the third because all it's going to take is for her to get one takedown. She just has to Mackenzie has to get this fight to the ground one time to win. That's it. That's why I'm picking her. I think Marina's the better fighter. I think she's the better striker. It just is what it is. But what Mackenzie Dern does so well, Marina Rodriguez does not. And that's the big difference in this fight. Again, let me just repeat this. Rodriguez the better fighter. Top to bottom, I think she's the better fighter. But 25 minutes is a long time to not get taken down. And once she gets taken down, this fight is over, folks. Unless it happens in with 5 seconds left in the round. And even then it could get a little sketchy. So there's your answer. Parlay of Dern by sub. Back to the parlays. Romanov by sub and Fury by decision. Yay or nay, gents?
I don't think Fury Wilder goes decision, so.
I don't either.
Ooh.
I don't either.
I'm more questionable about the Romanov. I think a lot of people are counting out Jared Vanderaa. Not that I think he's going to win. I picked Romanov.
Perfect.
I think Vanderaa.
Perfect segue, AK.
from our man in Denmark, Toke Girding Jensen. Is Alexander Romanov the forgotten future of the heavyweight division, with everyone talking about Aspinall and Dawkins? A little bit. I think because he went to a close decision with Juan Espino in kind of a funky fight, that it dulled some of the hype. But Juan Espino also, I think, is better than people think. So I think that's a fight that, like, if people thought he was just going to truck through Espino, then they should be more surprised. But, like, how competitive that fight was, than think anything poorly of Romanov. So he is a little bit forgotten. I think after tonight. And I think, honestly, I don't think tonight's going to help that much. I don't see him rolling over Jared Vanderaa. I actually think Jared Vanderaa is tough. I think it will go to a decision, maybe a little more convincing this time for Romanov. But I can understand. I don't know why he's forgotten, because I understand why. I do think he's a step behind Aspinall and Dawkins.
Yeah, it's a good question. We were raving about this guy, but he fought twice in like less than 2 months. So he got out there pretty quickly, and then the Espino fight happened, and we haven't seen him since. I mean, God forbid a man takes 6 months off from fighting, but it was just like comes out quick.
It's also
pandemic, boom, 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 boom.
Let's add Juan Espino to this future of the. I know Juan Espino's not the youngest man, but
he's a spry 39 years old.
He also has the biggest head I've ever seen in my life. He has an absolutely monstrous head.
Romanov is just so fun. Like, he's just such a personality. Yes. I love how he belly-to-belly suplexes his coaches after every win. It's just great. But he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. I'm very excited about his future.
Unrelated to the fight card, but we've seen a couple questions about these other ones. So quickly. Okay.
It's a better card top to bottom, 268 or 269. AKA, what do you think?
Oh gosh, you know me. I have no memory. Let me Google this first. I'm completely unprepared.
268 is the New
MSG,
York. 268 is the best
What's
card of the year. 269 is Poirier Oliveira, but we don't really have the rest of the card. So top to bottom, we don't know. But 268 is probably the best card of the year.
That's not really question. That's not really fair to compare, then, is it?
No.
Hold on, let me see what else.
268 wins.
Well, 269. So we've also got
Nunes Pena.
Moreno,
Figueroa, yeah. Munoz Cruz. Garbrandt Car-France.
I think a better question is: are you more excited for Olives Poirier than?
Well, his name is Charles Oliveira. We're not gonna anglicize any foreigner's name.
What's up with Charlie Olives?
Because that's because it's a bullshit name and his name is foreign, so we're gonna keep
This is how I feel when people call Robert Whittaker Bobby Knuckles.
Who calls him Bobby Knuckles on this pre-fight Q&A?
None of us. I'm just saying in general.
Exactly.
This is a comment about society.
Charlie Olives is for people who think that they need to anglicize foreigners' names, and we're not going to do that on MMAfighting.com. We also use accents and enyes and everything. This is a sucker's game. Anyway,
we're going to call them that. It's funny. It's a funny nickname.
It's not.
It's harmless. Dan Hooker made that up, the Charlie Olives thing.
Does Charles Oliveira call himself that? Then we're not going to call him.
Maybe he does. I think Oliveira Poirier is a more compelling fight than anything on 268, though.
If someone asks me which
Gaethje Chandler.
If someone asks me which card is better top to bottom, I say which card is Justin Gaethje on, and then that's my answer.
That's the answer.
Tough to argue with that.
Also, like the main event, Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, like that first fight was awesome. That fight was so good. So like the running it back is great.
Yeah.
I'm also all in favor. I think Izzy said it. Like he likes the idea of lapping divisions. Kamaru Usman is about to start the lap.
Yeah, he has.
So I love watching dominant champions continue to do that.
I guess because they're both rematches, the two title fights. I'm kind of like, but then we also have Moreno Figgy, which is a rematch on 269. Mm-hmm. Nunes Pena, which is a fresh matchup, but not the most thrilling matchup.
This guy's been very negative in the comment section, so we're just going to address him.
Okay.
By the way, I think 269 does better on pay-per-view than 268 does.
100%.
Just putting that out there. Mike Hagan looks good. Jose is hit and miss, but he's tolerable. All right, tolerable.
More than tolerable.
But because he,
I also don't understand why
anyone but gives certain vets a hard time for still fighting.
When's the last time I was even on a pre-fight Q&A? I honestly don't know.
He hypes up certain fighters that haven't beaten anyone, but gives certain veterans a hard. This is a very specific.
I know. I'm very confused by it.
I'm still trying to understand.
It was very perplexing.
Like he should have named, like if he had named an example, someone would be like, oh, okay. I'd be like, yeah, I've seen Jose. I've heard Jose. I can't think of like who he's talking about here.
I also haven't been on a preview show, a post-fight show, or a Q&A in several months.
This is not Casey, by the way. I don't know. Are you mistaking him for Casey?
Maybe.
Marina won 5 rounds with Watterson, beat Tisha Torres, beat Hebuz by KO, who beat Dern and won comfortably stylistically.
Yeah.
Marina is a nightmare on the feet for Dern. Who said otherwise?
No one
We've
has
all
disagreed.
said this.
No
This
one
is
has-
this has been a very negative chat, and I don't know
If this
why.
stays on the feet,
Literally
Dern
all
is
said
toast.
this.
Dern cannot win a 5-round striking battle with Marina Rodriguez.
Of course
This is
not.
I don't think-
She can.
Also, and I
we're
think
saying
this,
anything.
I think this individual is telling me that I said Nick Diaz should stop fighting. If you watch, I can't remember if it was between
It was
the links.
BTL, wasn't it?
I loved that fight. I said
Yeah.
if Nick Diaz wants to fight, he should fight. But if he needs to get his life together, he shouldn't fight. Right? Is that what I said?
Yeah,
I want to see Nick Diaz Robbie
Pretty
Lawler.
sure you said you wanted to see him fight again, like without him being prompted.
I
You
had,
said
yeah,
you
boom.
got out of there,
There you
saying
go.
you wanted to see him fight
There
again.
you go.
Could have been Jason.
Also, addressing this, I don't have a top knot anymore. I cut it off.
You did it a time though.
Come on, guys. You got to catch up.
Oh, Mike, question. Here's a comment for you.
Oh.
Best fight of the night is going to be Taylor
Oh.
Starling and BKFC. I mean, we all know how this is all going to go. Okay, we all know why Taylor Starling is on this card. We all know why she's fighting who she's fighting. She's gonna get herself a little highlight reel tonight. Good old Taylor Starling, because she's gonna get prepared for this 125-pound tournament that they plan on putting together. This is a stock boosting night for Taylor Starling. I think she got a little bit of a boost in her last 2 fights, especially the last fight going out there and just wrecking Cassie Robb. She's probably going to do something similar tonight, and I think they're just going to try to push her. I think this is BKFC's attempt to try to push her a little bit more. Although I hate the main event tonight. Hate it so much.
And then this individual has asked this question several times, so we're going to address it, even though I think we talked about it in the preview show, but maybe they weren't people that weren't on the preview, because some people don't turn into the preview show, so we'll answer it there.
Yeah. Do you guys think Marina versus Carla rematch happens if Marina wins? Seems like thing UFC would do to Carla. Yeah, I mean, probably at this point. I mean, I think if Marina wins, it's probably all going to depend on what happens at 268. Like if Zhang wins, they will do Marina versus Carla, because then they'll do the third fight between Zhang and Rose, right? So, yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. And Joanna's a very interesting piece of this puzzle that literally nobody knows what she's going to do right now. Nobody knows. So, yeah, it's possible.
It's amazing how little leverage Carla Esparza has for someone who's clearly like the number 1 contender outside, of course, Namajunas, Zhang Weili to resolve their business. She's clearly the number 1 contender. She has no leverage. The UFC will be happy to never give Carla Esparza a title shot. If she says like, "Well, I'm holding out. I'm not fighting until I get that title shot," they'll be like, "All right, cool." Like I said, we've got the winner of tonight's fight. We've got Joanna Jędrzejczyk waiting in the wings. It sucks. But she has no. She's a well-known fighter, but I think it's fair to say Carla Esparza is not the most popular fighter. She's not like on a Conor McGregor level, a fame. So she should have all the cards based on her credentials, and yet somehow you just feel like they could pass over her for another year if they wanted to.
Yes, Marina versus Joanna would be amazing.
Oh yeah,
Dern and Joanna would be interesting too. I'd be interested in that fight.
And the most important thing about all this is about 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about how strawweight wasn't competitive, and now it is the most competitive division in all of women's MMA.
Yes.
When has 115 let you down? Like when is that?
I'm not saying it let me down. I'm just saying
I'm just saying in general. That's just how good it is.
I just think we hit that point where Joanna was so dominant, it just felt like we were bringing out bodies. And then Rose knocking her out. Like this kind of like what Valentina's going through right now. Like people just need to catch up. Or like when Ronda was the man, people had to catch up. I know the Becky Lynch is the man. Ronda, blah, 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 blah. Ronda, when Ronda Rousey was the man of the women's MMA, like everyone just had to catch up. Eventually, someone will catch up to Valentina. That's a fact. It always. When is someone not caught up to a dominant? Like DJ lost, Anderson lost. Valentina will eventually lose, just not to anyone right now.
Just Habib. Habib is like the only one that no one really caught up to.
That is very true.
And could have.
He didn't even catch up to himself yet. He was only going to get better, which is even scarier.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got? Couple minutes. Kyle's been very quiet the whole time. Maybe UFC promised or something. I wanted that Carlos Condit treatment. She deserved like some step aside cash. Let this thing play out. Give you some money.
What I said,
Chill.
what Carla should have done after her win over against Yan Xiaonan, which obviously it's just not in her. She's never really been like the most outspoken individual. I mean, her name is Cookie Monster, and she's like very nice and like sweet and everything. If she just took the mic and was like, Dana White, me versus Rose, Madison Square Garden, and then just throws the mic down and walked out. Like, how do you deny that? Like, she should have just like come guns blazing.
Yeah, that's sometimes you
like
just gotta do
like a walk away, like ignores John Anik's question, just Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck, and then just like walks out, like something like that.
Who had the idea that she should have just like ripped Paul Felder and just like cut a promo on him?
It would have been fantastic.
Somebody had that idea. Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. I mean, she has literally nothing else. She literally has nothing else she needs to prove in order to get that shot.
This is a very interesting question, if you want to read it out loud.
Is Charlie Ontiveros an example of someone getting into the UFC with a larger window provided by COVID issues? I mean,
this is a very interesting question because how many fighters have we seen take like short notice fights or like people can't get into the country? So maybe there are fighters that wouldn't like eventually will get to the UFC, but not as quickly, if that makes sense. Like the net was bigger and there were more opportunities. Like how many fighters did we interview? Like, I'm going to stay ready just in case, or you never know who I'm going to be fighting. How many times have I said you don't know if you're going to fight until you both men are in the octagon? So this is a very interesting question, I think.
By the way, the official timer says 4.5 minutes to the first fight, so we got plenty of time. People, please stick around with us. We got plenty of time. They're still chattering away on ESPN Plus or Fight Pass if you're in Canada.
Yeah, I mean there's a whole bunch of names that fit into this category, question. I would say.
Yeah,
there's a lot of fighters who moved to Vegas simply for this reason.
Yeah, there's a whole stable of fighters that live on the other side of the planet that are going to move to Las Vegas just so they can get fights.
Yeah, and this is no disrespect to Ontiveros, but yeah, he's just one of many. I mean, who was part of sort of the ongoing roster dilution that we're seeing in the UFC right now because they have so many cards, guys. So you're going to see a lot of people. I mean, again, this isn't new. This has been going on probably the past couple of years. You're going to see a lot of fighters who probably are not what was once considered, UFC caliber, getting that call and getting to compete once or twice, and then getting and then bringing another guy. It's it's sad to say, but again, great for these people getting this opportunity. But I mean, a lot of these people would be better served if they could, developing on the regional scene before getting this one and done UFC call up and then never getting that call again.
There's a bunch. I mean, there's a bunch of these names. Steve Garcia, you could probably make the argument for it. Gomez Juarez, another person getting a short notice opportunity because of the situation. Lupi Godinez got signed.
Who's he and Gary fighting next?
Jordan Williams, right?
Yeah, probably something similar, right? Like, didn't he get a last minute fight against Kevin Holland?
Who, Jordan?
Yeah. Who did?
No, that was Ontiveros. Jordan was on the contender series like 47 times and should have gotten tracked all the times.
That's right.
Then finally got one.
This is a comment I saw for our strawweight conversation, which I completely forgot about her.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Read it up well, I guess we don't have comment. Like,
we don't have a pod, yeah. Is Amanda Lemos the dark horse of the division? 100%. I think the answer is yes.
Shout outs, by the way, to the person, Nivatan Kuganantam, who I believe is from Markham, not no regular. So shout outs, Nivatan. Markham's in the house. Yeah, no, for sure. It's funny that we haven't even mentioned her once. But I think she's in a great position to, again, like be, one or two fights more development, more building her name, more building up highlights. And then she'll be in this sort of the same position that Dern is in now sometime next year.
She is the Merab Dvalishvili of the strawweight division. That's what she is, because she's so good. We see how good she can be, but nobody in the top 5, maybe even the top 10, is going to want anything to do with her. Right. And I understand. The risk reward factor does not weigh in the favor of the top 10 fighter fighting Amanda Lemos. It just doesn't. But eventually her time's going to come and they're going to have to fight her. But I think she's going to have a hard time finding fights until that point, though.
Since we're running out of time, I figure we can answer this.
It's going to happen after the UFC event.
Yeah.
We're going to give you some time, like you said, eat some dinner, watch the post-fight show, hang out, and then we'll give you some time in between to chill out and then get ready for a long night. Because Fury Wilder aren't making that walk until 11:30 midnight-ish.
It's gonna be
Eastern
brutal.
time.
That's like but like, how long do you think the fights last longer than the walkouts?
Oh boy, that's a really good question because I don't think this one goes very deep. Both walkouts. I'm gonna say no. I think the walkouts will be longer than the fight.
I can say our poll. I'll end the poll now with a firm Tyson Fury lead, 81% going Tyson Fury.
I think Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight of like last 15 years.
Sure, yeah. So pretty firm. I think what a lot of prognosticators have been saying all week, what we've been saying, what I've been seeing a lot on social media. So
And then
yeah,
I got a comment specifically for AK from earlier in the chat. I think it's the perfect way to end this.
Yeah.
Is this a Red Sox baseball player?
Is this a Red Sox baseball player?
The
This
man
man walks.
fishing.
This man walks on water in the playoffs.
The Jays didn't make the playoffs. The